It's the Two Joes podcast coming at you with our faces covered with a mask, social distancing from each other. Please help me welcome my good buddy and co-host, Mojo.
Thank you. Welcome. And again, as always, I want to thank Angel for giving me a chance to get out of my house for an hour. And any of you who might be joining us, and I think Angel, you described it well. That our podcast is really one that people can do when they're like doing dishes or fixing the cleaning the kitchen up or doing laundry or something like that. Just relax and join the conversation. Pretend you're right here with us, and let's get on to the news of the day, shall we?
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it. We're just a couple of friends sitting around talking, and you're welcome to join us and listen in. Absolutely glad you're here if you are listening. So news of the day. I guess the first thing that's kind of coming up for me, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, is this whole Joe Biden thing that came up right after he got the nomination of, this, I guess it's sexual misconduct back in the day. From what I understand, it was a long time ago. As far as I know, it's just one woman who claims it happened. And I'm just, I don't know how I feel about it. If it's a game changer, do we blow it off like we did for Trump? I mean, it seems like the Democrats are playing under different rules than the Republicans, and it's frustrating me. I mean, we already lost Al Franken, and I think an apology in that case should have been good enough. Personally, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with that circumstance. But here we are again. What do you make of it, Mojo?
Well, I always go in degrees there, or I look at ends of the spectrum when it comes to that. I've seen the same headlines that you have, and some of them will call it anything from sexual impropriety, and then others will call it flat out sexual assault, which really is.
I heard rape. I heard rape. So I don't know where exactly it falls. And
that's, I think, where the left again goes dead wrong. Is you get a lot of people out there will tweet something like, "Well, it doesn't matter. There's really no difference between grabbing a woman's butt and pinning her against the wall. There's no difference." And there is a difference. They're both bad moves. They're both awful. But there is a big difference. And so I want to know the degree of his inappropriate behavior or his crime, whatever it might be. And I would like to know if this is just completely made up out of the wall or out of the blue by somebody just because it's an election season and he's now got the nomination and somebody, a Trump supporter, wants to bring Biden down or take him into Trump's arena, Because we've got Trump on tape bragging about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And
it just rolls off like water on the back of a duck. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, Biden certainly wasn't my first choice, but as I've said before, I'd vote for a shoebox over President Trump. The man is just unfit and just doesn't care about American people. He cares about his job. That's it. And keeping his job, but keeping it.
His ego.
And, the ego.
It's more important than the job. It's more important than the country. The guy can never be wrong. Yeah. Any criticism, he's going to fire your ass.
Yeah.
I mean, have you heard that he's even kind of thinking about firing Fauci now? The only guy that stands between us and the pandemic just ravaging this country.
I've heard those two. I don't think there was ever much to that. I think Trump knows that's a bridge too far. Even Trump knows that's a bridge too far. I think
he's dipping a toe in, though, dude. He's dipping a toe in the stream. He actually sent out a tweet, from what I understand, he was basically retweeting someone that said "Fire Fauci." Hashtag.
Yeah, I saw that.
So he's dipping his toe in the water, seeing what the reaction's like.
It's true.
So it's just
something we've all learned about President Trump is you cannot put anything past him, starting with winning the damn election in the first place.
Yeah.
You can't put that past him, obviously. So there's really nothing that the man, you can't say he will or won't do anything because you don't know. You might as well predict a horse race that has 2 million horses racing in it.
Well, there are some things you can predict. You can predict that he'll never be wrong. He'll never say he's sorry. He'll never take responsibility. You can predict these things pretty regularly.
Yeah, you're right. And there's another prediction that we can certainly make today about the November election. If the pandemic is still with us, and if somehow America comes to its senses and allows widespread mail-in voting, and if President Trump gets wiped out in a landslide, then we know for a fact he's going to say, improprieties, irregularities, this was rigged. See, I told you what would happen if we did mail-in voting. I told you,
that's pretty much a given.
We know that would,
Yeah, if we even have the election, if we even have it, who knows at this point? Or it could be just a clusterfuck like the Wisconsin primary where we've got a stay-at-home order, but they're going to say, nope, we can't do the mail-in, or we're not going to give you any extra time to get the ballots out or get the ballots in. If you don't have your mail-in voting form, then you got to go to the polls. How many people are not going to go to the polls? I mean, already I think we're going to have low voter turnout because it's Trump and Biden. I mean, this is the best our country can offer us. It's just pathetically sad.
It's pathetic. It's almost as bad as the choice we had in 2016.
I think it's a little bit worse, personally, but that's just my opinion.
Do you?
Yeah, I think Biden has a worse track record. He's in worse health than Hillary. At least Hillary could have a conversation and she could make a decision. Biden has to be led around like a little puppy dog,
Well, the one thing we definitely agree on is it's another bad choice.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, it's, I don't know. It's, but it's just get Trump out. That's my deal. Get him out.
Yep. I understand that. Harm reduction. Reduce the harm, because Trump is taking this country apart bit by bit, deregulating EPA now. He's telling the companies just to go ahead and regulate themselves during this pandemic.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, we've already seen the evidence has been flabbergasting. I did not expect to see the things I've seen, and you've seen them too. Since there's been pretty much a global stay-at-home order, have you noticed how crystal clear the air has been here in the Salt Lake Valley?
My wife and I go out and sit in my hot tub several times a week nowadays because, we're self-isolating and all that and just trying to cope with everything. And man, the nights have been so beautiful, dude. Way less plane traffic. Yeah. The stars are there. There seems like there are more stars. Better air. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, it might have been just springtime weather. We've gotten some rain and some winds that could clear it out, But there are other examples around the world. Venice. Didn't they get some dolphins up in the canals or something recently due to no traffic and less pollution?
I've seen lots of videos of animals running around having a good old time moseying down the road. Today I saw a satellite map where they were showing how like over India, over China, over Italy, northern Italy, the levels of pollution dropping as the number of days have gone on with this stay-at-home order. It's amazing how everything's kind of cleaning up and getting nicer. I mean, if nothing else, this should really point out to all those people that say, oh, we're not doing it. We have nothing to do with climate change, blah, blah, blah. It should be a pretty good example of, look what we're doing. Yeah. Just staying at home for a little bit,
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any hope that, maybe if we woke up to a degree, would there be a future where we do kind of like 1 month on, 1 month off kind of thing where we kind of rotate people going to their jobs or something? You know what I mean? Okay, this is your month to stay home and this is your month to go work, just to kind of reduce the amount of pollution we're cranking out because we've already seen what it can do.
In a month, in less than a month.
Yeah.
That's the astounding part of it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And any right wing people out there listening, please know that Mangel and I are not saying everybody stay home now from here on, forever. That, we're of course we're not saying that, but if environments can recover this drastically in that short amount of time, then that it'll change our thinking. But let's hope that it's going to be one of the fundamental changes that's going to come about.
Yeah, let it motivate us to say, hey, look, we can do this. We can spend a little less. We can drive a little less. We can do a little less, maybe. I don't know. It's just a thought because, man, it's just way interesting seeing the changes that are occurring.
Mm-hmm. Very. I saw somewhere in one of the cities in Michigan, somebody driving through your average middle-class neighborhood saw like 35 deer on the side of the road crossing the street, not afraid of anything because they're just not afraid anymore. The humans aren't in their environment the way we have been. Mm-hmm. And it's, and I'm not saying that's a great thing for us or not. That's just an observation. Mm-hmm. And another observation I've made recently on social media is the number of electric bike ads that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And not just trying to sell them, but invest. There's one out there called Rumblebox, and they're based out of Sweden and California. And their bikes look, certainly on first, they look affordable. And man, that would be another great thing. I drive down 3 blocks to get my groceries. I could easily take my electric bike down twice if I needed to get my groceries. That'd be, one way.
Yeah.
Because right now my car is getting about 3 weeks to the gallon, but that's not always going to be the case.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Did you see the one about the pandas in the Chinese zoo that made it after 10 years because they don't have a crowd watching them 24/7?
Yep.
That was
interesting. I saw that one. Very interesting.
I think the only...
Another one where...
Go ahead.
No, the only what?
I was going to say the only sad story I saw were these monkeys out in, I think in, the Philippines, Thailand area where they're so used to tourists feeding them that now that there are no tourists out there feeding them every day, there's like this huge pack of monkeys just not knowing what to do, where do we go for food?
Yeah.
And they weren't happy.
Yeah.
But other than that, most animals seem to be doing better, but yeah.
Well, I think I read, it might have been Bill Maher last weekend did a thing on rats that because everybody's staying home now and there's less trash to feed on, rats are starting to cannibalize each other. And, so I don't know. I don't know how bad that makes me feel, really. And I don't know if that's even true or not. Who knows if that's true. But
I don't know.
It is really amazing to sit back and look at some of the changes that can take place in such a short time.
Yeah.
When humans aren't in the mix, it's or I shouldn't say in the mix. I mean, we're still here.
Yeah.
But
just backed off our consumerism. We backed off our energy consumption. Our energy consumption is way down, as far as what I'm told, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. But power, electricity is staying about the same.
And that's not what I heard, though, but it could be. What's up is internet traffic is way up, from what I understand. Yeah.
It might have been why we had trouble connecting a little bit earlier.
Maybe, because, some people at my old job have been having some trouble, too. And they've been, the first 2 weeks of the stay-at-home order, they were working from home. They had no problems with this last week. Yeah. Now all of a sudden they're starting to have problems because when you got 16 million people trying to file for unemployment on the internet, that's a lot of traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, talking about another topic of the day, and you've probably seen some of this. I should say you've seen some foreboding of what's coming, and we're already starting to see signs of it. And I'll just give you the example I read right before we got online tonight. Bill Mitchell. I don't know who that is. If he's a member of Congress or just a reporter or a pastor, I have no idea. So ignorant and so dangerous and so stupid that it's definitely worthy of mention. He said, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but essentially he said, well, boy, it sure is good that the COVID-19 didn't hit the numbers that H1N1 did. You know, there's 2 million people infected with COVID-19, so we just need 1.3 billion more to match H1N1. And there's been 100,000 deaths, so we only need like 80 million more to match H1N1. Aren't you glad we shut down the economy over this? And the ignorance that drips out of the thought process like that is, well, it makes me sad and frustrated and angry. You know, so I had to respond and said, you know, I kept it short. I just said, well, I sure am glad that we took mitigation efforts against COVID-19, so we didn't hit those numbers. You know, and that's really all I could say. I wasn't about to try and engage in a fight or anything, but you know, the several models out there, Mean Joe, and I think you've seen them. You might have pointed me to one or two of them that where if we just kept going as it were and as things were going and not done a thing, then pretty much it would be 100% infection by now. Everybody on the planet would have it by now, or no, I think it was by mid-June. I think what some of these models predicted. If we just went about our lives just as we were, then by now I would have caught it from my niece. You would have caught it from me at a jam session, and it essentially everybody on the planet would have it in about a month and a half from now.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know, so let's brace ourselves for the ignorance that's coming, because we've already seen it, like in Michigan, where they held that anti-lockdown rally. Did you see some of those headlines?
I was going to bring that up next, dude. This is a nation of cowboys, man. I think that's what I'm realizing. We're just a bunch of woohoo, shoot it up cowboys. We're, you know, give our middle finger to logic and reason, you know.
Down with the government. Did you see the genius that took a Confederate flag to a rally in Michigan?
No.
Did you see that?
No.
Michigan was a union state.
Well, it was.
Yeah.
But Michigan is such a mix, dude. I don't know if you know who Michael Moore is, right?
Oh, sure.
I'm a bit of a Michael Moore fan, and I read his book when it came out, and he was explaining to me this yin yang, this black and white, this two sides of a coin kind of thing going on in Michigan, where part of the Michigan is definitely, you would think, liberal and all that, and you know, proud of the Union Army and all this, but there's another half that is like racist, Confederate, crazy type of people. People that just live in another world. So it didn't really surprise me too much to see that coming out of Lansing, but just the mentality surprised me to the degree, or it just confirmed this theory I've been working on, where this is just a country of cowboys, and I don't think we're ever going to get another politician or president like Bernie to come in there and give us a Green New Deal or lead us in a new direction, you know? I just don't see it happening just yet, you know? They elected that cowboy Bush, and they elected that cowboy Bush's son twice, and then now they elected the renegade, say whatever he wants, shoot a person on Fifth Avenue and not see his poll numbers go down. Trump, you know, that's just a mentality with a good percentage of people in this country have adapted.
And they nominated that death panel idiot from Alaska.
Another woohoo! You know, shoot the moose from the helicopter.
Yeah. So I guess the point I was raising, though, is, you know, waving a Confederate flag around Michigan would be like going to Six Flags and raising a Disney flag type of thing. It just doesn't belong there. You know, That's what I was trying to explain to you. It does belong there. There is a huge percentage of the people that are there in Michigan that are like that. Yeah, I guess I'm saying, you know, whoever was waving that flag, get your history straight. You know, your state fought against the Confederacy, you know. I'm saying that guy was probably racist, and he probably knew exactly what he was doing. It's a little bit different from some people that see that flag and they think it's, you know, Southern pride, which I can see because, you know, we had the Dukes of Hazzard growing up, and that's kind of the way I saw it back then when I was a kid watching the Dukes of Hazzard. It was the General Lee. It was Southern pride. It had nothing to do with the Civil War and slavery, but it should. You know, that's just because I was a kid. You know, now that I know better, Mm-hmm.
I can put the proper context on it. But yeah, this guy probably knew exactly what he was doing. He was definitely not waving that flag for Southern pride. He's in fucking Michigan.
Yeah. You use the word context, and idiots like we saw there, they don't know what that means. They probably think a context is where you look up footnotes in the back of a book. You know, they don't know what context means, but you know, it's. But how about some of the interviews we saw with some of these geniuses? There were two of them in particular. One of them wearing a full-on mask, you know, and it looked like something you'd wear on a blizzard day skiing or something like that. And he was saying, you know, he was asked the question, well, so what do you think about COVID-19? He goes, oh, this coronavirus, at first I thought it was a big deal until I did my research. And now I think the media has just overreacted and overreached. And then the reporter asked, well, you're wearing a mask right now, so you must be concerned. He goes, well, no, I'm just looking out for other people. You know, in case I have it, I don't want to spread it. So it is a big deal then, but you're here saying it's not a big deal. And, you know, it's just, but the other genius that got to me was a guy, he wasn't wearing a mask. And he said, you know, there's a virus. Yeah, I'll admit there is a virus. Well, don't you think that a big gathering like this might spread the virus? And he goes, well, hey, man, it's a virus. A virus has to spread. It might spread a little, you know. And just that kind of ignorance is just crazy. Wow. I can't believe it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's idiots like that could eventually make it so we do catch it, even though we're taking all the precautions, and because the virus won't peter out. It won't go its course. You know, these people that are, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just crazy. I'm just amazed.
Well, we know that anybody can get this. I mean, the Prime Minister of Britain got this thing.
Yep.
You know, if Tom Hanks can get it, and I just saw an NFL player, Von Miller, was diagnosed positive. Mm-hmm. You know, so anybody can get it, and that makes me reflect again on the idiocy of this guy Bill Mitchell and many like him. That, you know, either they didn't catch it themselves, or they didn't know anybody who did. They certainly didn't know anybody who died from it, or they wouldn't be spouting ignorance like that. You know, this thing would have spread like wildfire if we didn't take the steps we have over the past month. Yeah,
I want to give a two Joe's salute to everyone who took this seriously and took action and did things that helped slow the spread of this virus, because I think it is working. I really do. I think I think it would have been a lot worse at this point if we wouldn't have done the things that we did, like keep the kids home from school and that, you know. That would have been such a huge way to spread this virus, those poor kids at school in close quarters like that, walking down those halls, you know, packed in like that. So huge two Joe salute to those people. And
go ahead.
Oh, I forgot where I was going with that. I just wanted to give a two Joe salute out to people that have been wearing the mask and using the sanitizing wipes and going out less than they have to, and things like that. That's
only when necessary. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, it hasn't been easy. We all know that. No. And, you know, and again, I was one of the handful of really lucky people on the planet where I was prepared for this. This is the life I've been leading for over 3, you know. I work from home, and the extent of my social interaction is grocery shopping and having people over for jam sessions. So this has not affected me the way I'm sure it has I don't know, what do you call them, hyper-social people, where their life kind of revolves around getting out and going and mixing and going and doing things, you know. And
like
then,
kids, teenagers, high schoolers,
yeah.
And college students, too, very social people,
Yeah, exactly. So hats off to all of you that did take that seriously. I know it's impacted many more people much more harshly than it has me. So, two Joe salute.
And keep it up, because we're not out of this yet.
We are not. You know, toward that end, I saw the distressing report that I was dreading out of South Korea. They had 19 cases of people who recovered and were tested positive again.
Uh-oh.
And, you know, so there's a bad sign right there. So I wanted to talk to my dear niece, Kojo. You know, let's raise that issue really quick, because we've had her on, I think, twice or 3 times now. Twice, I believe. And, you know, we all know she had tested positive and had mild symptoms, and then was well past her incubation period. And so I think it was last Friday was her cutoff date where she could rejoin society, or so she was told by health officials. And she just today drove down to Southern Nevada to visit her parents and other members of her family. So that's kind of an interesting, dynamic.
Yeah.
We can just assume that her body fought it off and she doesn't have it anymore. Then she's not infectious. That's certainly what we're hoping for.
That's what we're hoping for. Yeah. Makes me a little nervous, though, I have to admit.
So we're going to have her on again on Sunday. If we cast again Sunday night, and we'll ask her some of these questions, and then we'll have to do a follow up like 2 weeks later with her parents, and maybe they'll join us and let us know if they're feeling anything.
That would be interesting, yeah. Because I found out today too, where there's like 3 different strains of this virus now. Have you heard that?
Yes.
So that puts the immunity thing in question, and it also makes the vaccine thing a harder thing to come up with, right? At least that's the way I understood it.
Yeah, you get into murky waters for me there. I'm so ignorant.
It's really new.
Science,
I just saw one video on it, but that's kind of what she was getting at. It was I forget what her name is, something Iverson, Kim Iverson, maybe. Have you heard of her? She's kind of a progressive, fairly new person on YouTube that I listen to occasionally. But that's the first time.
Not heard of her.
Oh yeah, I'll have to send you a link or something. She's all right. I don't listen to her a lot, but this was interesting, I thought. And she seems to do her homework,
Well, the 2 strains that I originally heard of were put much more simply, so I could understand it. Where the first strain found a way to go from animal to human, and then it mutated again. It could go human to human. But I'm not sure what that really means. I mean, it seems that a human could catch it from an animal, then a human could catch it from a human. I don't understand the difference there. But the doctor I saw interviewed said, yeah, we've already seen it mutate. So now it doesn't just go from animals to humans. It now has mutated to go from human to human.
Yeah, maybe that's maybe that's the 3 strains. Maybe, yeah, because she alluded to the fact that China might have been incubating this virus since like September, and they didn't really notice it until December when it mutated enough and started killing people and getting bad. Before that, maybe it was just a mild flu or something, and then it slowly mutated and got worse and worse and worse. We might be on strain C now, and that's the deadly one. Maybe your niece had strain B, which isn't quite as deadly. But then to kind of debunk that theory is George Stephanopoulos, I guess, has it, and his wife is really sick, and she has it, and he has it, but he's not as sick as his wife. So and then we go back to genetics. Maybe his genetics are better, and for whatever reason, it doesn't affect him the same.
That again, that's where I tip my hat and give another salute to the people trying to track all this crap down. I mean, look how many variables are at play here. So you have genetics. If you have strong immunity, then you're likely to survive. If not, you won't. Then you also have what is the health of the virus when it first attacks you? Is it almost on death's door, so your body can fight it off much more easily, or is it a vibrant, healthy virus that you don't stand a chance against? It's the same strain, it's the same DNA sequence.
That seems to be a real thing. Yeah. And then there's the health of the patient, underlying health conditions of the patient.
Exactly. There's a third variable right there, and it's you can understand why they make some serious money. They're worth every penny.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a moment ago the children, and how important it's been to lock down the schools. And what? See, again, that would have again to refute this Bill Mitchell idiot. That sure, I'm glad we destroyed the economy. For numbers like this. Well. And again, now I'm not a disclaimer, Main Joe. This might be fake news I'm about to spout here. I saw it on a social media post. I didn't have time to follow it up before we started talking tonight. But I'm gonna spout it anyway, just because I despise Sean Hannity so deeply. He was talking with Dr. Oz. This guy who He's a daytime, and I guess he actually is a medical doctor. I don't know his credentials, but I suppose he's an MD, went to, 8 years of school and did a resident. I don't know, but they've had him on a lot recently talking about this. And as a little side note, notice how Fox News has Dr. Oz and CNN has that Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Now, between the two of those guys, I know who I would trust.
Yeah,
I know who I would take advice from.
Yeah, me too.
But anyway, I'll be brief on in trying to repeat this. So Hannity says, well, Dr. Oz, help us out here. What do you think a good first step would be in reopening the country? And Dr. Oz, if this is true again, if this transcript is accurately portrayed, he said, well, I think a good first place to start would be reopening the schools, especially the elementary and the middle schools and the high schools. Then we know that the kids are going someplace safe every day. Some of them don't eat much unless they're in school, and we know they're being educated. So, even if we do have a 1 or 2% mortality rate, and this transcript I saw actually said mortality rate, Joe, a 1 to 2% mortality rate
of children.
Then of children, of school-age children, up to age 17, from 6 to 17. And so whoever posted this did the numbers. There's over 60 million school-age children in America. 1 to 2% would be, 2 to 2.8 million children dying, not just getting infected, but dying.
Yeah.
And this would be an acceptable thing for Dr. Oz. Now, I'm going to follow this up right after our cast tonight to see if there's some other sources verifying this, or even better, I find video footage of it. But that kind of thinking is just nuts to me. It's just I don't get it. How they can, they're saying that go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking they don't value human life. I mean, that's obvious, the way they oppress us, the way they don't help people out. They don't have any empathy for people. It's all that almighty dollar, What can we do to scrape more money out of the system, I saw one guy make a really good argument as to how stupid is it that they put banks in charge of releasing the stimulus money, this money from the Congress that they voted on. They're just going to want to take their cut. They're in the business of making money, not distributing it to people that need it. He was like, okay, wouldn't the post office been a much better way to distribute this money? They're in all the rural areas as well. They're everywhere. People count on them. People trust them. And there's been talk about having the post office also be kind of like a small bank to help out these rural communities where everything's disappearing, And what a great idea. But guess who Trump isn't going to bail out? He's going to bail out the airline industry. He's going to bail out all these other companies. He's going to bail out the Trump industries, but he's not going to give any money to the Postal Service. He's denied them any help, any funds at all, from what I understand.
One of the few lifelines that many people in the country have right now is, I'll never forget when I was dating a lady about 10 years ago, and she described what it was like when she was a young mother raising 4 infants at home. She had adopted 2 babies within about 18 months of each other, and then found out she was pregnant with twins. So she had 4 kids in diapers at one time. And she said that going out to the mailbox every day was her idea of a holiday, a vacation. So
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Postal Service is huge. Another stupid decision.
Yeah.
What did they do to piss them off? Did they ask for help? Did they the head of the Postal Service made a bad comment about Trump somewhere along the line. So he's like, he plays favorites. He's even doing that with the governors and stuff, because he was like, I have total authority to refire up the economy when I want to. And the governors were like, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah. But I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that immensely.
He needs some fucking pushback in his life.
No, finally.
And he can't fire the governors, thankfully.
Yeah, thank heavens. And what he noticed that there were nothing but crickets from the GOP when he was talking about the total authority of the president, You heard nothing from Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. Nothing.
Yeah, from what I understand, they weren't too happy. But even Fox News, I understood, pushed back a little bit. I didn't see any of it, but that's what I heard.
Maybe they did. Yeah. Well, yeah. I shouldn't. I spoke too soon. Maybe Lindsey Graham did say something and I missed it. That could be.
Well, he was quiet about it. He probably wasn't happy about it. I mean, he's not an idiot. I mean, he's just a coward and basically a traitor, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he's not
basically,
stupid. Yeah.
Well, you raise a good point there. I actually think that 95% of the GOP despises President Trump, but they won't say a word. They will not say a word.
They know what side their bread is buttered on, Like now he's talking about, Congress is out of session. I'm going to, I forget how they called it. They said something like dismiss Congress, and then he's going to put through all these different appointments and things because they've been kind of on the back burner. Why Mitch McConnell has them on the back burner, I'm not sure, but for whatever reason.
I studied that one enough so I could finally come to some understanding. Yeah. So adjournment is I think the word you were searching for there is of course the left wing is right now saying, oh, President Trump's going for the ultimate totalitarian power grab and he's going to adjourn Congress by himself and run the government by himself. That's not what is going to happen. In fact, the constitutional powers that President Trump is citing in order to be able to do that, do not say that he can do that. Here's the gist of it, is if there is a disagreement between the Senate and the House of Representatives about whether to adjourn, then the president can step in and say, okay, I command you to adjourn or I command you to not adjourn. But that's the only power that our president has. The president does not have the power to come out of left field and say, you're adjourned. Go home. You're done. Our president does not have that power. It's only if there is disagreement. The Senate says, we want to adjourn for 3 months. And the House of Representatives say, no, we don't want to adjourn right now. Then the president can step in and say, okay, you're adjourned. That's kind of the gist. That's in my limited abilities. That's my understanding of this power.
That's interesting. Yeah. I know that I think a reporter asked McConnell about it before they went home for their break or whatever. And so they were talking about it. They thought that this might be an issue or it might come up. And McConnell was like, I don't think it's going to happen kind of thing. Part of me hopes that at some point Trump just pushes McConnell a little bit too far, and the longtime senator in McConnell comes out and says, "Fuck you, Mr. President, we're shutting you down," kind of thing. Because really McConnell does kind of have Trump's ass in his hand. I mean, if they could whip up new impeachment articles at any point, I mean, this guy is so corrupt and so whimsical in the shit he pulls that I don't think it would be difficult to find new impeachment articles to try him on, and McConnell could just say, fine, then let's do this, and then get rid of him that way. I don't think it's gonna happen, but a part of me hopes it will. I would love to see McConnell find his spine and stand up to this guy and actually be a human for a change. I don't know, maybe that's too much to ask for.
It is an amazing thing how we've seen firsthand evidence now of why we are a republic and we are not a democracy.
Yeah, and how important it is.
Now we see how important it really is. And yet the very thing that our founders were worried about is happening now, is a minority in the country has taken power. Mm-hmm. And the people in power are so afraid of this minority commanded by the orange jerk that they fall right in line behind him.
I'm telling you, man. The checks and balances are really being stretched to the limit. They're really struggling to hold us together right now. It's in some ways you could make a very good argument that this is basically a soft coup. What we're seeing right now, it's to not convict him of that Ukraine thing. The withholding money when they pissed him off, just like he's doing with who. It's his MO, you can't fucking deny that he did this, but yet you're not going to Oh, well, he got impeached in the House. Hopefully he'll learn his lesson. Are you fucking kidding me? Grow a spine. Open your eyes.
Yeah.
It's what he does.
Yeah. Well, you raise one of our old friends, one of our original friends, Shy Joe. Last time I hung out with him, he moved the goalposts just like they're so good at doing, just like they did with Benghazi.
Mm-hmm.
And so Shy Joe, over a couple of cocktails, when you start talking a little bit more freely and a little bit more, perhaps a little bit more heat behind your words, he said, okay, Mojo, you tell me, what crime did President Trump commit? You tell me. You go ahead and tell me what crime he committed. And, of course, that's ignoring the fact that the president doesn't need to commit a crime. The House can impeach him because they don't like the color of his hair. It doesn't matter if he committed a crime. But that's beside the point. So I said, okay, it was a crime for him to withhold those congressionally approved funds from Ukraine because Trump himself signed it into law.
I believe it was.
At that moment, it became a crime for him to withhold those funds, even for a day, let alone for 3 months, for a day.
Yep.
And so Shy Joe's response to that was, well, they all do it. That just goes on in politics all the time.
Oh,
They're
really?
all doing it.
Show me.
So then
it's that it's that whataboutism. I don't think so, dude. I don't think so. It's that whataboutism. They always do that. They always say, "Well, what about Obama? Well, what about Clinton?" It's not a valid argument. We're talking about the person in charge right fucking now, and this is what he did. I'm not going to go back and try Clinton and Obama. They're not in office anymore. This guy is, and he got busted.
Yeah. Well, I had two responses. I said, first, well, Shy Joe, you just asked me to name a crime, and I did. And now you're saying it doesn't matter. So, what is it? I gave you the crime. Now you move the goalpost and say, well, it doesn't matter. And number two, if they're all doing it, then I guess what you're doing is defending Trump, who was dumb enough to get caught. So, I'm glad I'm not standing on the ground you're standing on because, it's crumbling.
Pretty shaky.
That is shaky ground right there. So, but Republicans are known to do that. And, but when I make a blanket statement like that, then I'm implying that Democrats never do it. And I doubt that's true. I'll bet Democrats have been just as dirty as any of them from time to time. It's just the Republicans are much more covered in filth, from my personal
and this is one of the things that I agree with Bill Maher. Democrats aren't perfect, but there is a difference between Republicans and Democrats. I mean, and it's not even close. Republicans play so much more of a dirty pool. They're so much more willing to lie outright, bald-faced lies to get what they want, to stay in power. I mean, like we talked about earlier in this podcast, we lost Al Franken to some sexual impropriety, and how many people on their side have done that, and they're still in office. They're still there, and they're supposed to be the what's that word? Evangelical Christian side of the ticket.
Oh, pick your adjective there. The moral party, the family values party, the personal responsibility party. So Al Franken has to fall on his sword and resign. And then you got Trump out there campaigning for Roy Moore down in Alabama.
Yes.
I mean, my God.
Oh, my God.
The ugliness of politics. I did not like Ronald Reagan at all. I think he began the metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Changing the GOP into what it is today.
He was a linchpin.
Yeah. But he did have a quote that I fully agree with. I'm sure you know it, and many of our listeners do, that he said a lot of people, politics is the world's second oldest profession, and it bears a lot of similarity to the world's first oldest profession, which is prostitution, of course. And I could not agree more. Politicians are nothing more than prostitutes. And, I really wish it was a Democrat who said that, because I hate supporting Reagan on anything, but he was right.
Yeah.
He was absolutely right.
Yeah, interesting. Have you been watching any Joe Rogan lately at all?
I have not.
Because he was echoing that a little bit. He had Brendan Schwab on, and they were talking about politics and how, Joe has been taking a lot of flack because he said he wouldn't vote for Biden, that Biden is in cognitive decline and there's no way he could vote for Biden. And so everyone's been saying, oh, Rogan's going to vote for Trump. He's going to vote for Trump and all this. And he's been taking a lot of heat for that comment. And he was talking about, Schwab asked him, would you ever have Biden on? And Joe's like, no way. It's just too dirty. He said, I had Andrew Yang on. I had Tulsi on. I like those guys. I had Bernie on. But he's like,
wow.
I couldn't do it. He says, I got a lot of emails from a lot of other people that wanted to be on, and I just couldn't do it. It's just too dirty. I don't like it.
Biden is too dirty?
Yeah, that's what he said. Well, wow, I don't know if he specifically meant Biden. He was talking in general about politics in general. It's just dirty, dirty pool. It's the dirtiest. He was agreeing with you. Yeah. And he saw Andrew Yang and Tulsi and Bernie as something a little less dirty, at least clean enough to have on the podcast, And I'm glad he did. I love all three of those guys. They were all very interesting to listen to, and I love Tulsi for her anti-war stance, the first candidate to ever contributed to a campaign of, and then I contributed to Bernie's later. I liked Bernie since before he even decided to run for president. That's how far back me and Bernie go. And Andrew Yang, I thought, was a breath of fresh air with his UBI talk, and again changing the political narrative and just bringing up these things that need to be brought up, because if we're going to survive in the future, I think they're going to be needed, and I think this pandemic is showing us that they are needed.
Yeah.
I just don't know if enough people will wake up to the fact. I think we have too many cowboys in this country, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
That's an interesting point. And when I remember watching Bernie Sanders' appearance on Joe Rogan, and I was entertained, and it made me like the guy even more.
Yeah.
And it also made me realize that Bernie Sanders is like the public television of politicians. He's the PBS of politicians, where you don't go there to get housewives of New Jersey and stuff. You go to see Masterpiece Theater or documentaries or Nova or Frontline. Bernie has been consistent his entire career about what's going on. Entire career. He doesn't shift with the winds, like a Mitt Romney or any of the other ones. And so I understand Rogan's reluctance, but man, it's also good ratings to get the Democratic nominee on your show. I mean, I don't know. That's an interesting take.
Yeah, well, he thinks he's in cognitive decline too. Is he going to talk to a guy with Alzheimer's? I mean, would that be a good podcast? I don't know. I mean, did you see that? Yeah. Did you see that little video that he did with Bernie when Bernie was endorsing him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't a good look for Biden.
No. Dude, the Fox News and the right wing is going to have a bountiful harvest of mashups they can put together to show. I mean, it's going to be sad.
And Trump,
Saturday Night Live is going to go nuts on Biden over the next 4 months.
And Trump and Donald Trump Jr. are both already working on him already.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then every now and then he can be. I saw him on Morning Joe, who was Joe and his wife, Mika.
Yeah. I used to watch that show a long time ago.
I still catch it in the morning. I don't watch the show. I catch the 4-minute clips on YouTube. Yeah. Just to see who they have on and what the headlines are. But he was actually cognizant and mainly kept himself together. Just this morning that I saw it.
Wow.
I was happy to see that.
Yeah.
But
it seems to come and go.
Let's just hope. I guess, Main Joe, what we're both hoping, and pretty much anybody who's anti-Trump, what we're hoping is that Biden can hold it together through November and win the election. And then I don't care if he's on a respirator after that. Then his VP choice takes over. But just enough to convince the fence sitters. Yeah, I've had enough of Trump. I'll go with Biden. He might make it through 4 years. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not going to give up the fight. I want to keep pushing for Bernie's ideas and Andrew Yang's ideas and Tulsi's ideas. These are my people. These are the people I want to rally around and support their. Bernie's not gone. He's still out there pushing for his ideas and his. Hopefully he can get Biden to come his direction in some of the stuff that he's. Biden evidently hasn't got all his planks in a row yet. He didn't come out with this health care plan of lowering the Medicare age to 60 till after Bernie was endorsing him.
Yeah, there's that too. And, I do hold out one ray of hope there, Joe,
What's that?
on Biden's stance on health care. Is you and I are both firmly in the Sanders camp. Is it needs to be Medicare for all of all ages needs to happen now.
Health care should be a right.
We've agreed on that.
Yes.
Yes.
Enough with people dying needlessly.
Yeah, and going bankrupt,
yes.
Due to Aetna and Kaiser and corrupt politicians.
Building another skyscraper.
Yeah. So my hope there, and this is far-fetched, I grant you, it is. But my hope there is that Biden or Biden's advisors are telling him to come out mainly against Medicare for all to get the independent, moderate Republicans back on your side. Bernie scared a lot of them by saying, day one in office, I'm going to put forth legislation that gives medical coverage to every man, woman, and child, and even undocumented immigrants and illegal aliens. Anybody in America is covered. That scares a lot of people right into Trump's arms. And Biden is taking a different approach, hopefully, that he's saying, I don't know, I'm not fully in support of that. And let's hope that gets him enough voters to defeat Trump in November. That's what my hope for Biden. I have no evidence to back that up at all.
Well, isn't that what Hillary tried?
Maybe.
I think, from what I understand, she had her Medicare plank was we'll lower it to 55. So she even came further down than Biden did, and basically she was telling Bernie supporters, we don't need you to win this election because I'm going for, like you say, Republicans that don't like Trump, and they're going to push me over the edge or help me win the election, and it didn't work. And I don't see Biden being any different.
Yeah.
The only thing different from this election than from 2016 is that maybe more people in the Republican Party don't like Trump.
Well, I think that one is, I'm going to be more confident. Instead of saying maybe, I think that is a definite.
Oh, really?
That after 3.5 years of Trump, I think a lot of people who voted for Obama twice and then voted for Trump are saying, "Oh, geez, okay, I'm going back the other way."
I hope you're right, dude. That would make my day. People waking up to Trump, that would be huge for me.
Oh man, I could. I have
cowboys checking their guns at the door. I mean, think about it. There was a time when they carried guns all over fucking town, and it's like they want to do that again. It's like, hello, we got rid of those guns. We checked them at the door when we walked into the saloon for a reason. I mean, why are you trying to bring them back? And you want to wear them on your hip, and you want to march down the road, and it's crazy,
Yeah.
I think I saw it was. I think it was Jordan Klepper who did a whole expose on that. He went down to Texas and he hung out with this group that wants to have open carry everywhere, and they have these rallies where they open carry in public and they hand out pamphlets and stuff to try and get people on their side, and it's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that there are enough to wake up.
I hope so.
And I don't want to call them Trump supporters. The Trump supporters will never be awakened or woke, if you will, what the word of the day is.
Yeah.
But there are people like Sam Harris once said, there are people out there who voted for Obama twice, who voted for Trump over Hillary. Now, you cannot say that racism or guns or abortion or religion, that doesn't explain it. They were looking at their job, their lifestyle, their taxes, their infrastructure. They were looking at a lot of different things saying, you know what, Democrats haven't done a damn thing for me. I voted for Obama twice, and he let the bankers get away with things. My taxes still went up. Military spending still went up.
Healthcare
I
still
didn't see
sucks.
much.
Yeah, I think
Healthcare still sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Obama was a disappointment in a lot of ways. Yeah, I think like Jimmy Dore says, Obama who gave us Trump.
Possibly. It was a combination, certainly, between Obama and Hillary. People just did not like Hillary.
And Mitch McConnell, because Mitch McConnell wouldn't let Obama do anything.
Well, there's a good point, too. There are some out there who say McConnell alone handed Trump the election in 2016 by denying Merrick Garland.
Yeah, he could have.
And
he showed a lot of strength there, didn't he? It was corrupt, evil, icky strength, but he showed it, and he didn't back down, and he got his way. Yeah. Well, now you call it corrupt, whatever. The people supporting Trump called McConnell leadership. He showed leadership at that time, Back again, I bring up Shy Joe's name again. Remember when John McCain voted down on the skinny repeal, and so it didn't pass. And Shy Joe was saying he was elected by the people of Arizona to do what they wanted him to do, and he failed. He absolutely stabbed them in the back. And I said, no, he showed leadership right there. So it really depends on your lens, on where you're looking at this. I agree with you. McConnell was corrupt and underhanded and double dealing and not doing what the Constitution ordered him to do. Writing his own rules.
And other people say, no, he showed leadership right there. So that's how, I don't know, a good word might be nebulous. That's how nebulous politics is.
Yeah.
Because I cannot see my way through to the Republican side of things.
That is a good
cannot
point.
see things,
It's so nebulous. It's so great. You think after 200 plus years of doing this thing we call a democracy, which these days I don't know if that's what it is anymore, but we would know how to handle, how to have people vote, without restrictions, without poll taxes, without having to wait in line for hours. You think we'd have that figured out by now? We'd have a paper trail. Yeah. We wouldn't have voting machines that can be hacked. I mean, what are we doing? But I think, the Republicans, they love to oppress. They love to reduce the number of voters out there, and they do what it takes to make that happen. So they gerrymander. Yeah. They invest in voting machine companies, and it's like... Yeah,
and they require for some reason now they're pushing to make it a federal law that you have to have ID to vote.
IDs.
We haven't needed that for 228 years. We have not needed IDs to vote, but suddenly now it's a big deal.
Huge
deal. Suddenly, So, and Main Joe, on that one, I wanted to say that I think I can put to bed the fake news case that voter suppression is entirely a Republican thing. Because I'm pretty convinced that it is.
Me too.
And well, first, does voter suppression exist? Let's look for the evidence out there. And if it does, who is the impetus behind it? Who are the ones putting these new rules in place and shutting down polling places?
Republicans that are running states.
Exactly right. I don't think that we can argue against that any longer.
Nope. I don't see how you could. I mean, we had laws in place to keep those southern states in check, right? And then the Supreme Court all of a sudden came out and said, racism doesn't really exist anymore. We're going to send this law over to Congress so that they can, make sure they still want it on the books or whatever. And the day after they did that, like 5 southern states all of a sudden came out with new voting laws because those laws wouldn't have been allowed if the Supreme Court was still overseeing them.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So when I voted for president back in 2016, it was at Whitmore Library, which is a short walk from my house, and that's really how it should be, all the way across the country. I mean, I'm talking. This is going to sound absurd on its face, but please consider it a little more deeply. You should be able to vote at a 7-Eleven. You should be able to vote at a gas station. There should be terminals where you can go and type in who you are and it'll recognize you. We should be able to vote online or mail in our ballot. If I can send in my taxes over the mail, I can certainly send in my ballot over the mail.
I've been voting by mail for the last 20 years, dude.
Utah is one of the few states that has that provision.
They do a great job.
That out.
They do a great job.
And they do a great job of it. Yeah. And how many cases of fraud have come about? 3 million.
Zero to my knowledge in Utah, and Utah is a Republican-run state.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's another beauty right there, Joe, is the Republicans are always the ones saying, we need these rules because voter fraud is so rampant, especially in California.
But they can't show us.
And yet they can't give us any evidence. The only evidence that came to light was in North Carolina. Did you remember this thing that happened in North Carolina?
I think I know where you're going.
It was a Republican who was out there hiring people to fill in ballots on behalf of people and mail them in to support Republican candidates. So, and that was only like, I think 8,000 or 12,000 votes total in North Carolina. But still, that's the only real hard evidence we have of any voter fraud whatsoever. And yet Republican sheep will fall in line, right? You've got to have ID to buy groceries. Why shouldn't you have ID to vote? It's absurd. And we talked about this about a month ago, I think, about should the Democrats start playing dirty at the level the Republicans do, or even dirtier.
Yes.
And Bill Maher brought it up first. And then I told you about a documentary I watched online, HBO. I forget the name of it now, but I'll never forget. It was the Roy Moore Senate vote election down in Alabama, where Doug Jones beat him. The Democrat beat him. And they interviewed a guy who was paid money from some Silicon Valley billionaire, a Democrat. And this guy put out fake videos just in Alabama. It didn't go any further than that. Facebook can target down to a street level pretty much. And these videos, and he admitted it right up front. I was paid to put out fake videos about Roy Moore, and the number of people my videos reached was about 8,000 more than Roy Moore lost the election.
Then the margin of victory, yeah. Yeah, money in politics, that's something that we got to address. That was on the top of Bernie's platform. We got to get it out. We got to figure that out because, when you can influence another state's election from halfway across the country, what's that about? The people in that state should be able to decide who they want to guide them and lead them and make the laws that they are governed by.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So here's a quote. I'm going to steal a little bit of your quote thunder. I've been collecting them as I go through the comments, and a lot of times people will lay down a good quote, and I'll copy it and paste it into my little quote list. This one's from George Carlin. You probably have heard. You probably have heard it. He says, "When you're born into the world, you have a ticket to the freak show. When you are born in America, you have front row seats."
I remember that one.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I got to remember, it's all a freak show. It's all here for our entertainment. And sometimes it's sad and it affects your lives in a negative way, but that's when you got to be a cowboy and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and roll with it to the best of your ability, because there's very little you can really do about it other than advocate strongly for what you want. And I want Medicare for all. I would like a UBI at some point, and I would like a Green New Deal. I think we got to, figure out a way to take better care of this planet. And with that, Mojo, I don't know if you have any last words or if you want to give us the outro. I'll leave it up to you. What would you like to go from here? Because we've hit our hour mark already, dude. Can you believe that?
Yeah, it flies by. It flies by.
Flew by.
I hate to see these come to an end because then I'm back in my house again. For the past hour, I've been out and about in the world, and I've been solving all the world's problems. And you and I align on 99% of everything.
It's amazing.
It's a pleasure.
It is.
But it's also fun to have those opposing points of view on.
I agree.
But
sometimes they enlighten me.
But it's hard to find. I guess this is where I'm so narrow-minded. It's hard for me to find an opposing point of view, where I disagree 99% of the time. where I just don't start bristling and losing patience and saying, how can you be so ignorant? You know,
Well, yeah.
I've got to.
One where they make good
thing.
arguments and you can respect their argument, you know, that seems to be few and far between. I've never really felt I've found a person on the right that can really engage me that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's, the Republicans don't really value facts and evidence. They go with gut and the best speaker up there, and who makes the best derogatory nicknames for their opponents. You know, it's. But with that being said, yeah, let's do a quick outro and then a little follow up. Well, thank you again for joining the Two Joes podcast. It is Thursday, mid-April. Beautiful night here in Salt Lake Valley. And so glad you could join us. We'll be back again soon. And stay safe during this pandemic. Keep everybody safe. We will talk to you soon.